For a while, it really seeed like things couldn't get any better. A Stanley Cup in 2009. Then, not even a year later,
Sidney Crosby, the golden goal, and Canada has once in a lifetime Olympic gold.
that golden goal, sending a nation into an Olympic frenzy. But since all the magic,
They're blindside by Davis Steckel. We certainly feel the effects of that.
the blows, those hits to the head, landing the game's best player on the sidelines for much of 2 seasons. Of course, Crosby was back in the spotlight last year, front and center for players during the NHL lockout. Then, game on, and he was leading the league in points.
Slap shot from the AJH camp as it goes up into the face of Crosby.
But again, a fairy tale season was not to be. A puck to the face meant he was back off the ice until the playoffs.
Crosby with a bouncing puck, gave it away. Here's Brad Marchand streaking in, scores!
Games that, well, they look pretty ordinary compared to Crosby's past heroics. May be hard to believe, but Sid the Kid is now heading into his 9th season in the NHL. This summer, as he turned 26, he trained hard and by many accounts looked very strong. Last week, as Canada's elite players gathered to begin the quest toward another Olympic gold, albeit with a bit of ball hockey, we sat down in Calgary. What's the number one issue for hockey players today?
Geez, I feel like we're in a pretty good place. I think that right across the board, the game has bounced back pretty well from a pretty ugly time there since last year. So no, I don't think there's too many issues. Maybe the young guys being so good. I think that's the issues for the players. But
did we ever think we'd hear Sidney Crosby talking about the young guys?
Yeah, I mean, 18 years old, everybody's coming in now, and it's just a young sport. I think it's got younger.
What about safety? What about player safety?
I think everyone's doing the best they can to control that. With concussions and things like that, that's the biggest, obvious one. But when you get guys this good, this fast, that big, it's unfortunately that's kind of part of it. But
what do you think is being done to control it? What's
as far as
different?
concussions?
What's changed?
Well, I think as far as the way things are penalized, players hitting the head, and players are much more aware of it now. With obviously with the media, you don't miss a hit now. There's no hit that doesn't go unnoticed, or a guy doesn't get away with a hit that he might have gotten away with in the past. I think that the penalties for that have become more severe. Suspensions are a little bit longer, and they're going to happen with the game being so quick. They are going to happen, but the intent, I think, has been a lot better the last couple of years with the awareness of it.
Do you think there's still more to go on that in terms of tougher rules?
Yeah, I think with time, like anything, you have to adjust and you have to adapt, and I think it's up to everyone involved in the sport at every level, from the professional level to minor hockey, to even to science, to doctors being able to help out and find out exactly. Concussions are still kind of a mysterious thing. We do know a lot more now, but there's still things that we can learn, and hopefully ways and methods we can learn to either heal or to find out more about the actual extent of the injuries.
Well, we know you're speaking from experience.
Yeah.
When you consider that since that golden goal, you haven't played a full season because of injuries.
Yeah.
2 kind of very different situations, the concussions, one, the kind of fluke, deflected shot, broken jaw, teeth issues. Although I got to say, your teeth are looking good from what we could tell. Yeah. But when I look at those 2, and I want to try and draw you out a little bit on this, when you look at those 2 situations, one's very easy to define. You can look at an x-ray of a broken jaw, teeth issues, you know when it's going to heal, you know how long it's going to take. You try to look at the concussion situation, and we're talking of a much different situation because you have no idea. What was that like, the concussion?
It's a scary thing, I think, for a lot of different reasons. Just, obviously the physical part where you're not able to really do much.
What could you do?
Not much.
Could you read?
No.
And reading's a big thing for you.
Yeah, I like to read, and watching TV, I couldn't watch TV. It seemed like anything, really. I mean, and you're just kind of told to rest, right? Which is the worst thing for any athlete, is just to sit there and rest. And you're so used to competing, so used to being around your teammates. So, I think the physical and the mental part, when you get a typical injury, you're given a time frame and you're gradually working towards getting back. And with concussions, there's not necessarily a time frame, or there's a span where you feel like you're getting better, and then it could be just one day that everything kind of seems to go back to where you started. So, it's a frustrating injury, and one that anyone who's gone through it can relate, and it's a hard one to really. So it's a hard one to understand unless you've gone through it.
It pushed you to take some different kinds of measures, or to at least explore other measures. I'll never forget this cover. I don't know whether you ever saw it, but there were other articles like it. Listen, in Maclean's, Rebuilding Sidney Crosby's Brain.
Wasn't that that may be pushing it?
Well, it was, it was the doctor who had you in various different situations and trying to help you, and it appears, in fact, it did.
It was great. I think the typical method for rehabs and a concussion, or typical way to heal, is just to kind of rest and not do anything until you don't have symptoms. And I think up to a certain point, that's a good thing to do. But there comes a time too where there are things that can help to diagnose and to hopefully make your recovery a little bit faster if you can. So the things that I did there were probably things that weren't that conventional, but I think are probably a little bit more and more. So that's encouraging to see that there are methods. And I think the biggest thing that for me at that time was Dr. Kerr gave me a lot of hope. He gave me a time frame. He gave me things that he thought would really help, and you just need that little bit of encouragement, especially when things haven't really gone that well up to that point.
Talk to me about that. I mean, how bad was it in your mind in terms of what it could mean? I mean, did you worry that you'd never play again?
Well, it crosses your mind. I mean, when you're not able to do everyday things, let alone be a professional athlete and be at that level you need to be at. I mean, that seems like it's miles away. So yeah, absolutely, that crosses your mind, and I'd be lying if I said it didn't. I mean, that's something that you try to not think about and store away back there, but that's in your mind.
Are there any recurring symptoms?
Nothing.
Nothing at all?
No. It's been good. Yeah, I've had a good couple bumps along the way last couple of years. Obviously, getting the shot to the face was probably the biggest test, and I remember that first week. You're pretty sore, obviously, where you get hit, but just kind of hoping that you're not getting any severe headaches or any dizziness and stuff.
And you had
like that.
nothing after that?
No, it was great. It was great. So, other than just the jaw.
Let me ask you one last question on concussions before we move on. And it's based on something that Ken Dryden said. Said that this spring, talking about concussions. I think that this is one of the big questions, like cigarette smoking was 40 or 50 years ago, that we look back on now and we wonder how we could have been so stupid. I think this is the one in sports that 40 or 50 years from now, people will look back at us and wonder, what was wrong with them? How didn't they get it? Why were they so stupid? And what he's talking about there is, concussions, but the unwillingness, it seems, to have a sport that that prevents concussions from happening as best one can. That constantly be looking at new ways, whether it's better helmets or whether it's an adjustment of the rules. You kept talking about how fast the game has become, which it has with the elimination of certain, the red line in the ice. Will we be looking back 40 or 50 years from now saying, geez, what was the matter with us? Why did we let this happen?
Hopefully not. I think hockey is a very traditional sport, and I'm probably the biggest supporter of that. I think the roots of the game and everything that goes along with it is what makes it so special. And that being said, I think that we do have to adapt and adjust, and there's nothing wrong with changing things. It doesn't mean that we're forgetting what the game is about or anything like that. I think that it's still an amazing game, and it's still fast, it's still physical. You're talking about taking out a very small number of hits and probably allowing a number of players longer careers because of it. So you're not going to be able to protect everyone, and the game's physical, and that's what we sign up for this, and we play since we're young. We all understand the risks that come with it.
Do you play it differently than you played it 4 years ago?
No.
You haven't changed your game?
No, not. I hope not. Hopefully not. If it has changed, not by design, not because I've wanted it to. I still feel like the physical part is just as enjoyable. I don't go into a corner thinking twice about my head or getting hit.
Bobby Orr told me this summer that he hurt his knee in the first year he played. He got taken into the boards, clean hit in Toronto when he was 18. He said he never played another game without feeling some pain in his knee.
He did pretty good for that.
He did. He did pretty good for that.
Yeah.
But you're saying it's gone. It's past. It's not there anymore.
No. I mean, and you do hear about guys who've had reoccurring concussion issues, and I think if anything, going through it so long and making sure that there wasn't still underlying things, and forcing myself to play under those conditions. I mean, that then it might be a different story. I might be sitting here telling you something different. Maybe I wouldn't even be playing now. So I think looking back, as frustrating as long as it seemed, I'm happy the way that it went, and I'm glad that I didn't come back until I was ready to come back, because you hear it a lot, you see it a lot. Guys come back too quick, and could affect their career.
The interview covers a lot of other ground, both on and away from the rink. Crosby talks about the pressure Canadian players feel to defend gold in Sochi, and he tells a great story about his family's other world-class hockey player, his sister. You can see the entire interview on this week's One-on-One. That's Saturday on CBC News Network at 6:30 Eastern Time in the evening, and again at 9:30 Pacific Time. Then Sunday on CBC Television at 12:30, 1 o'clock in Newfoundland. Final note, some of you may be wondering why we didn't talk to Crosby about last week's historic concussion-related legal case. The National Football League agreed to pay $750 million to thousands of former players. Well, our interview took place 2 days before that settlement was reached.